Today, I'm very excited because we are hosting the legendary CEO of a legendary organization, corporation, global corporation. So, welcome, Garry Ridge. Thank you so much for joining us.
G'day, good morning. It's great to be with you. Thank you.
Garry, that you can see the Chairman Emeritus of WD-40. WD-40 here in the States, I think everybody knows the product, even I do, and I use it frequently. And I was just amazed to learn about the history of the company and especially where the 40 came from. As the legend has it, and correct me if I'm wrong, there were 40 attempts to create the product and it finally worked out at the 40th attempt. Little lesson right there that don't give up, right?
Absolutely. WD-40 was a learning company right back from the beginning. There were 39 formulas that didn't work. It was created in San Diego in 1953 to solve a problem of corrosion and condensation in the Atlas space rocket. And the company back then was called Rocket Chemical Company. So the chemists got together and 39 times it didn't work. The 40th time it worked. I'm pretty pleased that number 39 didn't work because I think WD-40 39 doesn't sound as good as
Just now.
WD-40.
Speaking of 30th, you've been with the company for 35 years, is that right?
Yes, I started with WD-40. I'm an Australian, an Aussie. I started with WD-40 on July 4th, 1987. In fact, I think they had a holiday here on that day.
Yeah, the
Uh,
little one.
And I actually opened our Australian subsidiary, in Sydney, and I worked out of our Sydney operation from 87 through 94,
Mm.
mainly working in the Asian region. We were at that time at the early stages of taking the blue and yellow can with a little red top to the world. And then in 1994, I was having a conversation with the then CEO, and he said to me, "Hey, do you want to move to the US?" I said, "To do what?" He said, "Why don't you come over here and help us take the blue and yellow can with the little red top to the world? You seem to enjoy doing that." I said, "That's not a bad thing." And it's interesting, we both know Whitney Johnson, and she talks a lot about disruption and disrupt
Yes.
yourself. And that was a huge disruption. And when I reflect on it, it's so true that when you are brave enough to disrupt yourself,
Mm.
that's when the true opportunities for growth and learning come. So Whitney's right.
I'll tell her you said so. So not only you've been with the company for 35 years, but as a CEO for 25 of those 35 years. And it was just quite amazing, again, reading the history of the company that from the three people shop, it is now a global organization with multiple offices around the globe. So what was it? What did you do, Garry? What did you do, especially in your role as a CEO, to bring the company to such a phenomenal success? And it seems that the company is thriving in a current environment as well.
Well, what I did was realize it's not about me. And what I realized is that there are three words that are very important. And those three words are "I don't know." So, funnily enough, when I was CEO and I stepped down at the end of August last year, I used to introduce myself like this: "G'day, I'm Garry Ridge. I'm the consciously incompetent, probably wrong, and roughly right Chairman and CEO of WD-40 Company." But what
Oh,
I realized was that our job as leaders or our job as coaches is to help bring out the best of other people. And it was interesting how that came to me. I was the CEO about a year, and I was on a flight from Los Angeles to Sydney. And as you do when you fly around, I had a lot of stuff that I hadn't read, so I was doing some reading. So here I was, 38,000 feet above the Pacific Ocean in the middle of the night, aboard a Qantas 747. And I was reading, and I read a couple of things. The first thing I read was, it had a quote in it attributed to the Dalai Lama, and it said, "Our purpose in life is to make people happy. If you can't make them happy, at least don't hurt them." And I thought, wow, how that's a pretty cool way to think. And
Right.
then I was reading something else, and I read something from Aristotle, who was born in 384 BC. And Aristotle said, "Pleasure in the job puts perfection in the work." And I thought, my goodness, if we as leaders in organizations could create a place where people go to work every day, they make a contribution to something bigger than themselves, they learn something new, they're protected and set free by a compelling set of values, they know they matter, they feel like they belong, they're given the freedom to make choices, and they go home happy, that wouldn't be a bad thing. And the other reason it wouldn't be a bad thing is happy people create happy families create happy communities create a happy world, and we need a happy world. So I guess that was the long answer to the short answer, which should be it's all about the people that you get the privilege to lead every day. And then I was fortunate enough to get to know Ken Blanchard very
Mm.
well. Ken is my mentor. If people ask me who are the three most influential people in my business thinking, and it's the Dalai Lama, Aristotle, and Ken Blanchard.
Okay, imagine.
And I went back to school. I did a master's degree in leadership in 1999, just 2 years after being given the privilege and honor to lead the company. And I really learned the power of servant leadership, and I
Mm.
just had to execute on that. So, as you rightly say, today WD-40 company is envied in that it has a 93% employee engagement, 98%
Incredible.
yeah, 98% of the people globally say they love to tell people they work at the company. And here's one that I'm sure you will love even more. 97% of the people say they respect their coach, because we don't have managers at WD-40 company. Everybody is called a coach.
Right.
So it's all about the people. At the end of the day, we just sell oil in a can. So you've got
Yeah, but as you talking about it, this is something that we recently hear a lot about the modern style of leadership, all this good stuff. When you first started, especially as a CEO, that was not necessarily how one would describe a typical company and a typical CEO. So thank you, Dalai Lama, Aristotle, and Ken Blanchett. But so you talk about disruption and the S curve, right? Whitney's S curve. So hmm, I presume that over this 25 years as a CEO, you had to disrupt yourself multiple times. And how one does that? How do you know when it's time for the next one?
Well, I think it really comes from being very aware that all opportunities come from learning.
Mm.
And that's why we birthed the learning moment. Early in our culture, we took the word failure out and we said, we don't make mistakes, we have learning moments. And the definition of a learning moment is a positive or negative outcome of any situation that needs to be openly and freely shared to benefit all people.
Mm.
So our disruption came from a continuous thinking of, what can we learn from what didn't quite go the way we thought it would go. And in reality, 70% of stuff doesn't work out the way you wanted it to work out.
Sure.
Well, don't lose the opportunity that comes with that, which is to disrupt yourself and move on. So yeah, I think continuous learning, curiosity. If I can accomplish one thing as I continue on my journey here, it would be to help companies create a workplace culture where people actually do know they care, do know that they can make choices, do know that they matter, do feel that they belong, because that's what we're going to do to enable people to really play their best game. And that's
Right.
what the coach's role is.
Well, exactly. I wanted to ask you about two things now, because, of course, we can see on your background the culture coach. You talk a lot about the culture of WD-40, and again, that's something that is not not a common conversation topic in especially in a large type of organizations and corporations, especially in a field chemistry, if you will, that you represent, the WD-40 represents. So culture and coaching to me go hand in hand. But what's your experience of bringing even the subject? You said you took the word fail out of the vocabulary. When did culture come into the vocabulary of the company, and how was it received? Because let's just face it, it was not only you as CEO, but the whole workforce that perhaps was not necessarily used to this type of conversations.
Absolutely. Well, actually, it's interesting. When I thought about culture early on, I thought back about when I was at school in Australia many years ago, and I had a science teacher in my science lab, and the science teacher said one day, "We're going to actually grow some culture." So he gave us a petri dish,
Oh
and he
yes.
said, "We're going to grow culture in the petri dish." And I thought that makes sense. So when we're thinking about culture in an organization, first we have to have the dedication of the petri dish. We are going to grow it because you cannot sprinkle fairy dust on an organization and change the culture. It doesn't work.
Mm.
So, okay, we're committed to it's all about the people. We've got our petri dish. Now, what are the ingredients that you need to put in the petri dish to grow great culture? Well, there are a few ingredients. Firstly, you have to have a people first mindset. We're coaches, not managers. You manage a bank account, you manage inventory, we coach people. We have to have a clearly defined, authentic purpose. Why are we getting up each day? Now, I jokingly said earlier that we just sell oil in a can. No, our purpose was we defined our purpose very clearly early. We are in the memories business. So if you read our purpose, it says, we exist to create positive, lasting memories, solving problems in factories, homes, and workshops around the world. We
Hmm.
solve problems, we create opportunities. Then you have to have a hierarchical set of values. So these values are there to protect people and set them free, but they need to be hierarchical. Then you have to turn fear into learning. So you have learning moments, not fear. You have to promote the feeling of belonging, acceptance, connectedness. People have to feel secure, feel like they're supported, feel like that's inclusive, that they have their identity. And then you have to have the four pillars of care, candor, accountability, and responsibility. They're the ingredients that go in that petri dish. Your role then as a leader is to not only love your people enough to reward and applaud them for doing great work that feeds the positive ingredients, but you've got to be brave enough to redirect behavior that is putting toxins in the petri dish.
Hmm.
And as our friend Ron Carusi says, most people protect their own comfort zone at the expense of other people's development. A great coach does not protect their own comfort zone.
Right.
They know they're there to help others win.
Yeah, that's creating memories. I like that. I like that because that again talks about the people and not about necessarily the quarterly reports, right? Not that quarterly
Correct.
reports are not important, but that's a different mindset, as you said. So of course, the most talented CEO cannot do it without a good team working with them. So how did you go about finding your own team that would reflect similar values and similar approach in your company?
Interesting. So the master's degree that I did at the University of San Diego, um, which I would credit a lot of our learning to. I actually sent 35 people through that master's
Oh
degree
wow.
over a 20-year period. So we were embedding that type of that. Now, what we then did is we took the essence of that leadership learning and we created the leadership laboratory inside the company. So
Uh,
those people then became faculty
mm,
teaching everyone in the company because the number one responsibility of a great coach is to be a learner and a teacher. That's our job. We have to be continuous learners and continuous teachers. And when you think about a coach, there are some aspects about a coach that is really important. A great coach knows the game and knows what it takes to win. A great coach does never run on the field and try and kick the ball. If you think about a great soccer coach, we've never seen a soccer coach in the World Cup run onto the field. They spend a lot of time on the sideline observing the play so that they can help those win. And here's the other rub. They spend a lot of time in the locker room. And what
mm,
I mean by that, They have emotional intelligence. They're connected to their people. They're always asking them, what's on your mind? What's getting in your way? How can I help?
Mm-hmm. Um, I'm thinking about San Yin Chang. She was the winner of Marshall Goldsmith coaching award at Thinkers 50. And San Yin, who was my guest as well at one point, she talks about superpowers. What would you say is your superpower?
Oh, I don't have any superpowers.
Oh, come on. You would be so successful without a superpower.
I think a true love of the people.
Mm.
Winnie the Pooh, said that what is love? And his love is the word, but love is really the feeling that you have for the people. And, there's nothing that is more rewarding for me than to see those that I've had the opportunity to touch in some way go on and do great and better things in building great organizations around them. So, but I think I like to display gratitude. I'm caring. I want to be empathetic towards people. I hope to be a listener and a learner and very curious. And I want to throw sunshine, not a shadow.
Oh, that's nice. Sunshine in the shadow. Great. You are a speaker. You're quite popular in the speaking circles. But I also know that you're writing a new book, huh?
I am. Yes, I'm excited about that. It's called Any Dumbass Can Do It.
Okay.
And what it really is, it's capturing my 25 years of learning as a public company CEO. And why I call it that, it goes back to what you said earlier, Magdalena, is that people think this culture thing is complicated.
Mm.
It's simple, not easy, and time is not your friend.
Mm.
So, I think that what I want to communicate in the book is here are the simple truths that you need to think about when you're putting your petri dish together around, what do you need to do to build a great culture.
Mm-hmm. And Gary, although you left the company, but you're still very, very active, and of course you are the culture coach. So what gives you joy these days?
Um, Being able to share my scar tissue, just like I am now. One of the things that I think is great is that when people say you can't do this, I can call them and say, yes, you can, because we proved it. At WD-40, we proved that purpose-driven, passionate people, guided by their values, create amazing outcomes, because we proved it. Over a 25-year period, we took the brand to 176 countries around the world. We took the market cap from 300 million to 2.7 billion.
Billion, that's
And we did it because we had purpose-driven, passionate people guided by their values. So it can be done.
Mm-hmm. And I know also that WD-40 has a very strong corporate social responsibility angle, if you will, because it's not just the vision or the purpose. It's truly how what do you call it? Doing the right things right, or doing something like that.
Doing the right thing, yeah.
Doing it
Well,
right.
WD-40,
Yeah.
WD-40, the product actually has this, when we think about creating positive lasting memories, it's positive lasting memories for the people who come to work every day, the customers we have the privilege to serve, the communities that we have the privilege to exist in, and Mother Nature, who gives us the right to exist. So, when you think about WD-40, the brand, there's environmental footprints, and there's also what they call environmental handprints.
Uh-huh.
And the handprint is, what does your product or activity do to sustain the environment? And we do that by extending the life of things.
Mm-hmm.
With WD-40, the company right now, I've got a great program going on, which is called Repair, Not Replace.
Yeah.
If you can take care of your stuff, the purchase cycle is going to be extended. which, extends the manufacturing. So all good things happen. So, spray a little WD-40, stop the rust, and keep your tools a little longer.
Yeah, exactly. So clearly, again, when it was not even fashionable or popular, you brought a lot of coaching into the company. Was there any resistance to that?
Oh, there's always resistance. I invented this person. This is Al or Alice, the soul-sucking CEO. And this behaviors that people have around that are in all people. Marshall's book, Marshall Goldsmith wrote that great book, What Got You Here Won't Get You There. Those 20 habits of toxic leaders, if you will. Not necessarily toxic, but habits that don't create great cultures. And certainly we had people in the organization that resisted. And if they're resisting, they're not happy. So, if it came to the final discussion, my discussion was, you're not happy. If this is not the type of culture you want to be in, let me help you go to where you can be happy, because I want you to be happy.
Yeah, that's another one which is not super typical, and especially I think for the employees to be a little bit scared to bring it to the attention of their supervisor, instead of thinking that that supervisor can help them find what's better fit for them. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So it looks like you've been way ahead of your times, Garry, and it shows very, very nicely in the success of the company. So before I ask you a last question, I wanted to let everybody know that I just got a notice that LinkedIn has some connectivity issues. So I know that most of the people who are with us jumped to YouTube channel, but so that we will have the full interview posted on LinkedIn and YouTube momentarily after we receive it. So apologies for that. But Garry, so if you were to leave leaders and coaches and leader coaches with a thought, with a thought that would sprinkle that sun on a shadow, what would that be today?
As a leader and a coach, it's not about you. It's about the privilege and the honor you have to touch those that you can touch along the way. And remember, life's a gift. Don't send it back unwrapped.
Oh, don't send it back unwrapped. Gosh, I got so many great statements and sayings that you shared with us today. This is awesome. Garry, thank you so very much for joining us today. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. And as you said, the bruises and scratches, right, of long time, very successful career. So thanks again for joining us. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for giving great tips to our listeners and viewers. And well, best of luck with the book. I can't wait to get my copy of it. And again, thank you so much.
You're welcome. And please, if anyone's listening today and they want to follow me, please follow me on LinkedIn. I post blogs, and I'm always sharing my learning on there. So please come join me on LinkedIn.
Thank you.